Hundreds of people have gathered at the koppie in Marikana in the northwest to commemorate the 7th anniversary of the deaths of mine workers in August 2012. South Africans remember the massacre as one of the darkest days since the dawn of democracy. The president of mining union AMCU will address crowds that have gathered. The massacre 7 years ago sent shockwaves around the world. Police opened fire on Lonmin mine workers who downed tools to demand a monthly salary of 12,500 rand. 10 people, including 2 policemen and 2 security guards, were also killed in the days leading up to the massacre. Well, for more on the story, we cross to our reporter Mbalenhle Mthethwa, who's standing by for us in Marikana. Mbali, what's happening where you are?
On the stage, track number 6, my selector.
Good afternoon, Nompu. The proceedings were meant to start at 10 a.m. this morning. However, they haven't started just as yet. There have been a few delays. We are expecting AMCU President Joseph Mathunja to address the mine workers that have gathered here in commemoration of the 34 mine workers that died on that fateful day on the 16th of August in 2012. But the other thing that they're also going to be expecting to hear is an update on the wage negotiations. But before we go into discussions on the wage negotiations, it is very important for me to tell you that the widows of the 34 mine workers that died on that day have actually come onto the stage, and they've all arrived. And behind me, there are people who are also at the koppie, right at the top of the hill, who are also dancing and just commemorating and dancing in preparation of the procedures, basically starting here in Rustenburg in Marikana. But going back to the conversation about the backdrop that this year's celebrations are happening under. This year, at this time, the union is actually in conversations with mines and the platinum producers discussing wage negotiations, and they've basically spoken at a press briefing that happened earlier this week. AMCU President Joseph Mathunja basically called an offer that had been put on the table by Sibanye Lonmin, which is basically a mine that has recently been acquired by Sibanye as a provocation. Now, we've heard a number of people speaking since this morning about the latest offer of 300 rand, 3-year offer of 300 rand in the first year, 350 rand in the second, and 400 rand in the fourth. We heard Joseph Mathunja saying that this is a provocation, and basically the mine is provoking them to go on another strike. Now, this is obviously going to be a concern considering the events of August 2016-2012 and what happened. But we are going to hear more about that going forward, and we can expect that more information on that when Joseph Mathunja addresses the crowds that have gathered here in commemoration of those 34 mine workers. But it's also quite interesting to mention that the 34 mine workers have been seen as heroes, basically, who have basically contributed to the improvement of the livelihoods of the people in this community. However, driving around in this community, you don't quite see the improvements, although there are those who say their livelihoods have improved somewhat. In certain areas, you do find that there are certain miners that are still living in squalor conditions, in shacks with no proper sanitation or electricity. And basically, this is something that was flagged and highlighted by the Farlam Commission, that highlighted that the failure by the mines to provide mine workers with decent houses was what contributed to the tensions that escalated in this area and even the labor unrest. But I will be bringing you this and more here in Rustenburg. For now, it is back to you in studio.
Thanks very much for that report, my colleague there, Mbalenhle Mthethwa, reporting from Marikana.